We're going to switch gears now, and we're going to talk about Alec Baldwin. He, of course, we all know by now, shot and killed Halyna Hutchins on the set of Rust, and that happened a couple of months ago. It's just a really terrible case where Halyna Hutchins was a cinematographer who was working on the film. Alec Baldwin has now granted his first interview. It's a lengthy interview with George Stephanopoulos of ABC News, in which he describes what happened that day to George Stephanopoulos. He becomes teary-eyed, and he actually made a startling claim that we're going to talk with an armorer about in just a minute. But I want to show you a clip of Alec Baldwin from this interview saying he didn't pull the trigger on the gun that killed Halyna Hutchins.
It wasn't in the script for the trigger to be pulled.
Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you never pulled the trigger?
No. I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them, never.
Alec Baldwin saying he never pulled the trigger. And the minute I heard this, I thought of a Hollywood armorer who should be explaining this to us and how this could happen, if it could happen. So joining us is Steve Wolf. He is an armorer who's worked on movie sets. He's a firearms expert. Steve, thanks so much for joining us today on the afternoon session. What was your first reaction when you heard that claim from Alec Baldwin about the gun, the Colt .45 revolver that killed Halyna Hutchins?
I was somewhat taken aback. I had a sense of disbelief that someone could make a statement that an inanimate object was responsible for someone's death, that a gun that cannot lift itself off the table somehow miraculously pointed at itself at a crew member and then discharged itself. And it takes a heck of an actor to try to sell a line like that. But I'm not buying it. The sheriff's not buying it. And anyone who's a responsible gun owner shouldn't buy it. Guns don't discharge on their own. They are simple mechanical devices. In order to get a Colt .45 to fire, you have to hear this: click, 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 cocking the gun, pressing the trigger. Those things all have to happen in order for this gun to fire. And I've never met a gun that could fire itself, and I don't think that Alec Baldwin was in possession of the first one.
So there's no way at all that gun could have malfunctioned. Say if he had the gun and they said he was practicing that cross draw and pointed it. There's no way that it could have just somehow malfunctioned and fired that round.
I believe that in the process of cross-drawing the gun, he took it across this arc, he cocked it, he pointed it off camera, which is where Halyna was, and then because this gun has a very, very light trigger, just almost thinking about it, if the muscles in your finger hear you think about it, that's enough to get it to discharge. I'll show you in a profile view. There's the gun, there's the trigger. Watch my finger. So hardly any movement is required in order to get that to shoot, but movement nonetheless, and that the energy for that movement had to come from someone's finger. So unless he's now going to also allege that someone reached across and fired the gun for him after pointing it, the story just doesn't hold water. It never serves you to speak about a shooting in which you're involved because the circumstances in which it occurs are not conducive to forming accurate memories. When you go to school, they show it to you on the board, they tell it to you, they write it down, they cut out any distractions. When a gun goes off and someone's getting killed, it's the opposite circumstances. It's the perfect recipe for not remembering what happens. And when you say something and it controverts the physical evidence, you are seen to be a liar. Now, he might not be lying. He may have just misremembered how things happened. But the best policy is keep your mouth shut. And I'm sure that your previous and ongoing guests, the attorney, would have the same opinion.
Yeah, I would assume that any attorney would be just not happy that he did this interview. And Dave Halls, the first assistant director who actually handed the firearm to him that day, is backing up this claim through his attorney, saying that Baldwin never fired the gun. And I think it is interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. There's a search warrant being executed or was executed earlier this week on the prop company that provided the firearm and the ammunition to the set. And it sounds like the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, her father, who's a Hollywood armorer, suggested to law enforcement that this guy could have somehow maybe given live rounds to the set and mixed them in with dummy rounds, maybe by mistake. So what do you think the likelihood of that is? This seems like it would have to be such an incredible coincidence, an aligning of the stars to occur for something like that to happen.
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, the answer is C. There's no way that this gun loaded itself with live ammo that somehow materialized. When two blanks get together, they make a live round. I mean, the whole story doesn't make sense. The way live ammo got on the set was that someone bought live ammo and brought it to the set so that they could shoot the guns, offset during their down hours. And I believe that, plenty of people have said that that's what was going on. So the most reasonable, plausible explanation is that they were shooting this gun with live ammo prior to using it in this rehearsal, and that they forgot to take the ammo out. They didn't clear it and they didn't check it. And numerous people handled the gun and none of them checked it. So the normal procedures that should have been followed of, presenting the gun by the armorer to both the talent and the AD, opening the inspection port, half cocking it so that the cylinder can be rotated, showing everyone that there is nothing in the gun, and then picking up the correct type of load, be that a blank or a dummy round, showing everyone what it is, listening for the BBs, loading it right there in front of everyone, then handing it to the actor with an additional reminder: put this gun in your holster. Do not take it out until you're told to do so. Do not point it at anyone. Keep your finger off the trigger. When the rehearsal is over, you put that back in your holster and I will come get it from you. Don't hand it to anyone else. Understood? Got it. And when you own a set like that as an armorer or an effects coordinator, nobody gets hurt. But when you're AWOL doing who knows what while you have the armorer title, and you're not there checking, and then other people whose job is really just to speed through the production as quickly and cheaply as possible get a hold of the guns, you can't have an outcome other than an accident like this.
Steve Wolf, this is a criminal investigation being conducted by the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office in New Mexico. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out, whether or not criminal charges are filed.
Hi, this is Dan Abrams with exciting news for all of our Law and Crime followers on YouTube. You can now get the live Law and Crime Network with YouTube TV for all of your daily live trial coverage, legal news, expert analysis, and original true crime programs. Subscribe to YouTube TV today and then locate Law and Crime in the channel guide. And for only $1.99 a month, you can add the network to your bundle. Watch Law and Crime every day with YouTube TV. We put you in the jury box.